Good morning and welcome to the Friday edition of the Gareth Cliff Show. Thank you so much for having us on. My name is Sia Sangweni, standing in for Gareth Cliff this morning. Also with me, as usual on a Friday, is Leigh-Ann Mole. Good morning, Leigh-Ann.
Hi, bit of a start to the morning there, but we're here.
I don't even
Albeit a little
know
late.
where to begin with explaining what transpired over the past couple of minutes. But then also, before we get into that, good morning, Michael. How's it?
Good morning. Good morning.
Right, it's nearly there.
I'd like hate to be
you on my side.
Can you hear me all right?
Oh, this is just freaking delightful. More
Can
technical.
Can you not hear
Gareth
Michael?
isn't here. I think you guys can hear one another. I can't hear you. So that's
I can hear you, Leigh-Ann.
So this is just exactly what happens on a Friday when Gareth leaves for all of one day, and then we are trying to pick up the pieces and make it work regardless. Look, thank you so much for bearing with us. We are going to sort it out if we aren't able to hear one another. But yeah, Gareth is away for the day and he'll be back on Monday. The show will be as normal on Monday. But in the meantime, Leigh-Ann, Michael, and I are here to get your morning started off well. I forgot your names for all of a brief second. How are your mornings started off well? How's your morning, Leigh-Ann?
Well, if you can hear me, that would be a good start.
Not like mine. Not like ours here in the studio. Let me tell you that.
Are you having to lip read now, Sia? I think he's having to lip read.
Yeah, he's having to lip read.
Are you still based in Joburg, or are you based outside of Joburg?
No, still Joburg. Still Joburg, Boots.
But didn't you move to a
Cape
place
Town.
Yeah,
Yeah,
there was seals and stuff.
Yeah, so I was in Kalk Bay for a year. That's where the seals and stuff were.
Is it Kalk or Kalk?
You know what? It should be kalk, which is Afrikaans for chalk. But the locals call it Kalk Bay, darling.
Why is it called Chalk Bay?
You're asking me questions here that I'd have to Google myself, which I feel like I should have already. And I probably have, but it was a long time ago.
Where in relation to Sea Point is it?
Oh my God, Michael. Do you know where Muizenberg is?
Yeah. So towards from Sea Point to the wilderness. That direction.
Probably. So it goes Muizenberg, then St. James, then Kalk Bay, then Fishhook.
Don't think I've ever been there. I've been to Betty's Bay, I've been to the wilderness, and I've been to Sea Point.
Okay, no, then it's definitely not in between those. Another thing for you to Google,
Yeah, I'm actually going to Cape Town next month for a friend's birthday. So I think I need to do some exploring and start venturing and finding different locations.
Yeah, listen, if you're not going for just a day, then you have to go to that side of the Cape. It's absolutely beautiful.
What are the top 2 tourist attractions in Kalk Bay?
Well, given COVID now, it's a little bit difficult to say. But there is the Brass Bell. I don't it's a very popular eatery on the beach, and it's had its fair share of history with waves crashing in and flooding, and I'm sure COVID is also another one for the books. But it's a really stunning village. Muizenberg, just before that, is amazing to watch with the surfers. Man, haven't you seen those little beach huts that are all brightly coloured and multicolored? Oh, yeah? That's Muizenberg, and also parts of Kalk Bay have that as well.
Are those change rooms?
Yes, they are.
That's really cool.
Greg. So, yes, and then I stayed in McGregor for a year, which
where's McGregor?
Do you know? Okay, so it's along the wine route. So
towards Stellenbosch.
Past Stellenbosch, much further. It's about
Stellenbosch the wine route?
Yes, it is part of the wine. You're very frustrating. You know that.
I just want to know.
So no, it's way out of there. It's about 2.5 hours outside of Cape Town. So you would travel towards Worcester, and then you would travel towards Robertson.
We have a place called Worcester.
Flags.
Wait until you know how it's spelled. I feel like you need to do a little bit of research. Like, just go into Google Maps for a start.
Worcester.
Oh gosh.
I'll leave you guys with a W.
I'll leave you guys for 2 seconds and then it's become a geography lesson. Exactly. Well, look, I want to apologize first and foremost to say we were trying to patch things all up together over the past couple of seconds, but I think you guys should be able to hear me properly and I can hear you properly now.
Yeah.
Yes, definitely. I think after all of that, just to round off Flax and my discussion, is to note some of the comments. At least I know I wasn't the only one who was frustrated. Zanele said simply Flax with many exclamation marks. Ruv1 says there is a thing called Google Maps, Flax. And Tracy Bard says Flax is like that 3-year-old asking, and why? And why?
Yeah, you got to ask. That's how you find out.
And then I stand to be corrected. Thank you, Lenice, who says Kalk Bay is Lime Bay in English. I'm sure. I'm sure that. Yeah, I'm sure that I actually did look this up at one point. But you can't keep all this information in your brain. You've got to let some of it go and make way for new information.
Oh, excuse us, 30 seconds champion. What's that supposed to mean? What, your intellect is just, spilling over. You have to make room for new things. What's going on?
I'm like a sponge, Sia. I'm like a sponge.
Anyway, look, so yeah, we have so much more news coming your way and we have some funny stories. George Meany will stop by as usual on a Friday, but I do have to disclose some things to preface the madness that's going on behind the scenes. So my day started at about 1 a.m. this morning. I wouldn't necessarily say I'm a light sleeper, but I'm kind of always on edge. When you're putting a show together, you're waiting for, are things going to work out? Is everyone going to pull through? Is anyone going to pull out? Or, you make sense of everything as you go. And so I got a notification at 1 a.m. and that's specifically because of instances like this. But it was a message from Ben, who, for the past few weeks now, we're used to having him on a Friday morning between 6 and 6:30 just to catch up with him and what he's doing in his life. And he starts telling me that he's feeling ill. He doesn't understand what's going on. He's just trying to monitor the situation. So not only has my phone beeped and woken me up, rightfully so, because I've planned it that way, but now I'm invested in what's happening with Ben. I'm like, Ben, are you sure you're okay? Have you tried this? And do you want to try that? And so we're now having a full-blown conversation at 1 a.m. At this point, I'm wide awake and I couldn't go back to sleep. So I tried to do some work, but that only lasted very briefly. And then this is all, really my fault, because I thought, well, then let me just watch something. And what I'm still watching 2 weeks, 3 weeks now, going on 3 weeks, is the Underground Railroad. Now, if you don't know what the series is about, it's about the beginning
Underground train.
Sure, Michael, that's
like the mature version of Thomas the Choo Choo Train.
Thanks, Lord. Yes, that's what it's about. It's about the emergence and the growth of the Underground Railroad in the United States back in the times of slavery. And that's how a lot of slaves were able to escape plantations by using these underground railroads. So big mistake to think, oh, let me just watch something that's very light and perhaps I'd be able to go back to sleep. As soon as you're there and you're seeing people get whipped and you're seeing all of what is happening back in the slave era, you're like, oh, shucks. So I ended up binge watching like 2 or 3 episodes. Then I couldn't go back to sleep. So That's my delightful, ridiculous start of the day.
How long is an episode?
So they fluctuate, and this is what I actually love about where we are going with, streaming services and on-demand stuff. It's not like ordinary television back in the day that everything had to be 30 minutes. So sometimes you could actually tell that. Have you ever watched a series and you can tell, now you're just filling up time?
Yeah.
Or there was no need for this scene, or there was no need for this, storyline. With this series, since it was specifically for HBO Max, which is a streaming platform as well, they vary in length. Some are full hours, some are an hour and 7 minutes, and then there was just one random episode that's 19 minutes. But I'm like, I like that because the series is broken down into chapters. 10 chapters specifically, and with every single chapter they deal with what is, and then they move on. So I like it.
No, that would irritate me. I like consistency. Keep everything 30 minutes or something. I like David Dobrik's vlogs because they're all 4 minutes 20 seconds on YouTube.
Yeah, I was about to say, I just know the name and I know he's a YouTuber. I don't know anything else about him.
You don't know David Dobrik?
Hey, you didn't know Worcester. So let's not judge each other, but rather educate each other. Who is this David Dobrik?
Okay, so David Dobrik, when he was much younger, decided just to buy a camera and start vlogging his life. But he kept his vlogs very short, and he started numbering his vlogs. So he started with vlog 1, and then he just kept going. His friends didn't understand why he was filming them, why he was uploading it to YouTube. And then he just started taking off to the point where he became a multi-millionaire, before he was even 20 years old, or even well into his early 20s. He's now worth probably $16 million, $20 million. And all he does is he films his life, and he's on vlog 400 or 500 now. And he started everything's on YouTube. He gifts his friends with cars. He gives money away to a lot of people. Just a young kid that really just carried on and pushed through the whole YouTube thing and made it big. You get endorsement deals and stuff. There's lots of people coining it off YouTube.
Okay.
Yeah,
I just knew his name. I didn't really know who he is and what he's about.
It's probably one of the top YouTubers in the world. He's huge. I think he gets 11 million views per video. Yeah, it's really good.
Look, I'm not disputing his influence or how entertaining he is. I just don't feel like I'm missing out on much. Leigh-Ann, am I missing out on anything?
I have no idea who this person is. But instead of asking questions, I'm just going to Google him.
Who's your guys' top celebrity? If you had to pick one celebrity in this world that's you love, proper celebrity.
It's funny you mentioned this because on my way here I was listening. I'm a person who creates random playlists, and I have a playlist for every day of the week. I have a playlist for whatever activity I'm doing. Am I driving? Am I bathing? Am I taking a walk? Whatever it is. And I've reluctantly added Justin Bieber to one of my playlists because I'm just I like this new Peaches song. I tried to dispute it and think it's not fun. Now I'm yeah, this is really, really cool. And I was actually thinking about you as I was listening to that this morning. So is Justin Bieber still on your list there?
He's not as high up as he was, but he's definitely making a comeback. I see he's making a song with Kid Laroi, and it looks like Drake as well. Everyone's dropping albums next month. You got John Mayer dropping an album. I hear Justin Bieber's dropping an album next month. That's just two people, and I say everyone. Oh. That's all I know.
Yeah, totally, everyone.
There's a lot that I have to Google this morning because I nearly did that nod of I have no idea who Kid Laroi is.
Just named anyone. Could have been Johnny Depp's dropping an album next month.
Oh, good for him. Great. I know Leigh-Ann will probably say it's some YouTuber, right?
Yeah, those are the lines of what I was thinking, because again, COVID changed everything, where so many other people had the opportunity of becoming celebrities without needing big studios and big budgets. exactly as Michael was explaining. But no, that's something I'd need to think about for a bit.
That's so true. It's so much easier to become famous now because everything's like on digital and widespread. You just have to create one like viral video and everyone watches it and knows who you are.
Yeah.
I guess, but it also comes with a whole lot of perks, yes, but also a bunch of nonsense, alas. So, yeah, we'll get into more of that and so much more this morning. I want to get the morning started off properly to have some semblance of a normal show, despite everything that happened this morning. As I explained a little earlier, Gareth is off for the day, but he'll be back on Monday morning and things will be back to normal. But in the meantime, let's start your morning off with 5 things that you need to know. So hopefully this keeps you updated on things that are happening. The first thing that you need to know this morning is our president, Cyril Ramaphosa, has paid tribute to Zambia's former president, Kenneth Kaunda. Now, Ramaphosa declared a national period of mourning for 10 days starting today. This is Friday. Flags will be flown at half-mast at all flag stations. And Ramaphosa has described Kaunda as the father of African independence and unity. He says the Zambian was an unwavering champion of South Africa's liberation, and Kaunda offered the ANC headquarters in Lusaka during the apartheid era, and the former statesman was given the Order of the Companions of O.R. Tambo in 2002. So shame, man. Yeah. I knew the name Kenneth Kaunda, and I knew that he was a former president, but I'll have to be honest and say I didn't know how much he was tied into the freedom that we have in this country today and the history of the ANC.
So he was a really good friend of Nelson Mandela's, and was very vocal in having Africa be seen as a united continent, very much like Thabo Mbeki's, thoughts and actions as well. And just to speak of his personality, because I didn't know much about him. It's not like we turn on the TV and see Zambia's president on all the time.
Right.
But, one of the TV channels interviewed the ANC's Jessie Duarte, and she said that the overall impression she got the few times that she met him was that he was like this really gentle soul, a real gentleman, but would get to the point really, really quickly. He didn't mess around. But overall, the sentiment seems to have been that, he was a really important man in Zambia's history. And certainly he turned it around. My mum was born in Rhodesia, which then became Zambia. She was born in 1952, and Kenneth Kaunda really reached mainstream politics in 1953 in the country. So it was to think that was when she was born, and now she's almost 70 years old. So, his whole life was dedicated to politics and running the country. So it's really quite amazing. He was 97, so I'm sure it was old age related causes. Wasn't a skateboarding incident.
That's the case.
Although he was a very fit man mentally and physically. And they showed a clip of him at Madiba's funeral where he, it was more of into the celebration phase rather than mourning. And he darted from the crowd up the stairs and darted onto the stage. Even though it was like little old man run, he was just displaying his energy and enthusiasm to get up onto the stage and speak about his friend.
Tell me if this sounds naive, or maybe it might sound really silly, but I've been thinking about it with the passing of former President Kenneth Kaunda and also the episode of So What Now that we had this week. And if you didn't watch, we had Antoinette Sithole on, who, well, amongst other things on the show, but Antoinette Sithole is the sister of Hector Peterson. And this is why I think it might sound very naive. It is quite something for me to wrap my head around, that we are still living in the midst of people who have seen such great changes in history, or who have been part of such great changes in history. To think about, former President Kaunda and what he's done. And, if you were to sit down with him, the stories that he'd be able to share would just put so much into perspective. And, earlier this week when we shot with Mum Antoinette, there were so many things that, even behind the scenes, I was sitting with him and sitting with her rather, and going, wait, you were part of it. What we know as the Soweto uprising, what we read in history textbooks, this was your life. And it was actually behind the scenes while she was getting made up, where I asked her, are you tired of talking about this? It wasn't the best question to ask as a producer just before
we get them ready.
Yeah.
For a little pre-interview. Do you really want to do this?
Yeah, I'm like,
aren't you tired?
Are you sure you want to go out there?
In hindsight, not the best question to ask when I'm about to put it to student, go, okay, and talk.
And now do exactly what I asked you not to.
Exactly, but it hit home in such a different way to think about, wait, this isn't just a headline. This isn't just a story. She lost her baby brother. And not just lost her baby brother, she saw her baby brother die in front of her. I'm sorry to make it slightly morbid on a Friday morning, but it brought it home. It hit home in such a different way to go, whoa. And we could possibly cross paths with Ma Antoinette at the grocery store, at the robot. We wouldn't even think of her being such a part of a monumental occasion in this country's history, and we are still living in the midst of these people. So I'm still surprised and shocked by that, I'd have to say.
Yeah, well, I mean, there may not be very many people who were alive during World War I. In fact, I think there was a death of a former soldier quite recently, but he was almost, over 100 years old. And we certainly don't know anyone living who experienced the Titanic. But
hey, what about Kate Winslet and Leonardo
DiCaprio?
And a bunch surely,
of people.
Yes.
And surely the events that we have gone through may not have been as catastrophic as World War I, but in retrospect, perhaps they are. But yeah, it is. We're living such an important part of history at the moment. Speaking of the Titanic, I found a list of really stupid questions that people had asked on Twitter. And the one was someone saying, what was the name of the ship in the Titanic?
Wow.
Oh, gosh. Yes.
Let that one sink in.
Yeah. Pardon the ban.
10 points to you, Flax. That's just like asking, where's the Durban July going to take place? Or when and where is the Durban July going to take place? Stupid. Anyway, okay. So second thing that you need to know this morning, you might have heard about this already, given the announcement was yesterday, but visiting hours to all Gauteng public healthcare facilities have been temporarily suspended. The Gauteng Health Department says that this is because of the third wave of COVID-19 infections. Only one visitor per patient will be allowed in exceptional cases. This it's still not defined yet what exceptional cases is. But the province recorded over 7,500 new COVID-19 infections in the last 24 hours. Meanwhile, the South African Medical Association says Gauteng hospitals are running out of beds and some patients are now being transferred to other facilities. So it is said that the province is currently the epicenter of the third wave of COVID-19. With the peak expected next month, there are fears health facilities will be stretched beyond capacity. So SAMA, again, the South African Medical Association, says private hospitals have been the hardest hit, but public hospitals are also taking strain. Moving on to the third thing that you need to know this morning. We actually haven't discussed a lot of this, well, because it's sports, but this has been interesting to see how it plays out. But as of recently, Rafael Nadal and Naomi Osaka, with 24 Grand Slam titles between them, both withdrew from Wimbledon yesterday, with the Spanish star also pulling out of the Tokyo Olympics in a bid to prolong his career. Nadal's snub of the Olympics was later followed by world number 5, Dominic who now? Thiem, also withdrawing from Tokyo. Osaka, however, said she still intended to take part in her home Olympics. There have been a lot of people who are actually judging Naomi Osaka, saying, like, why is she even representing her home country as opposed to representing the United States? But yeah, I preface it by saying we haven't really discussed it, but Naomi Osaka has interestingly been in the news recently because she has decided not to take part in certain sporting events because she says she's looking after herself, but specifically her mental health. What do you guys think about this? Because I was a little surprised to hear that she's taken quite a drastic step.
How can you just pull out of a tournament? Like, the reason you entered the tournament was to win or get to the final stages. You don't just play to put down your name and then leave.
Mm.
Yeah. I think for the little that I know about her, I know that she battles a bit with social anxieties. And yeah, I think it's refreshing that we have such a focus on mental health now, and how sportsmen are able to say, I'm taking a break, and it's not because I have a torn tendon, it's because I need some time out. Or, it's self-preservation. I'd rather not put myself through the mental challenge of this tournament and save myself for one that's going to mean more to me.
I think it's a massive statement, regardless, on the likes of mental health and how serious the world takes it. And not to make light of mental health or mental wellness, but I'm no sportsman, but look, I'm far from a sportsman.
Really, Sia? Are you sure?
I don't know my birdie from
like
hitting
a
home run.
born athlete.
Thanks. There's something about my swing and the LBW and the whatnots here. But I'm even one to marvel at the commitment that it takes to be a sports player. Being a sportsman is not like being a singer, for example. And I know singers still have their own training and coaching and vocal exercise that they need to do. But being a sportsman is a full-time 24/7 commitment. When you sleep, what you eat, how you train, it's a whole thing. And so after months or years of this commitment, she building up to certain things in her career, and then she says, actually, for my mental health, I'll step away. Whoa, like that's big to me. And it's not even that she was saying, I'll still play, but I refuse to do interviews. She just stopped it all in one go. I'm really shocked by that.
What's her name again? I'm going to Google it.
Naomi Osaka. Osaka.
I don't know if Flax, you're taking the piss here or legitimately saying.
Guys, she has an estimated net worth of $25 million. I'd also be like, guys, I'm taking a little holiday mid-season.
Well, okay, yeah. Good point.
She's young.
Yeah.
Yeah. But also
got
think
a
of it
whole
in
life
context,
ahead of her.
But think of it in context of how long
She's 23 and valued at $25 million. Of course she's going to do what she wants. Yes.
No, but think of her in the context of being a tennis player and, however long the tennis career is, and what a break like this means for her. Will she still train during the break? Is she not? Is she? I don't know.
She's 23 years old. She's not taking a break. She's going on like VAC or something, matric rage or whatever.
Is that what she didn't say?
When you're 23 and valued at $25 million, a break for you is like going to Mexico in like a 50-bedroom house on a yacht, whatever.
Thank you so much for clarifying that. Okay.
Good Lord, imagine being valued. What's 25? What's the current exchange rate? is it like 16 rand to the dollar?
Oh gosh, it will
Let's
make
work
us
it off
feel like
18.
absolute.
Let's call it even at 18.
No, I think it
She's
should be like
worth
15
nearly
rand.
R500 million at the age of 23.
Yep.
Can you imagine being 23 and worth R500 million? Imagine walking into a club at the age of 23 and you have R500 million. You swap that thing till it melts.
Wow, thank goodness you're not a financial advisor.
This is making me feel so great about my life because I'm so close to that half a billion, right? It's just
I'm going to go buy a tennis racket at Game today. I want to be valued at R500 million and take mid-season breaks.
Oh, Lord.
Flax, aren't you a little too old for that to get your career started now?
Yeah, you've passed your prime, I'm
way
afraid.
too old. I had like a knee operation. Sports is out for me.
It's out, just out of the equation.
I'm going to have to focus on my intellect now.
Or your YouTube career.
Well, thank
Leigh-Ann.
goodness you've got that to fall back on.
I'm going to go give guided tours in Cape Town. So this is Chalk Bay.
Oh, Lord.
You know what? Flags actually believe in you. You can be whatever you want to do. Don't let Leigh-Ann, take you off your track here. You can do it. Fourth story that you need to know this morning comes from the best Korea, which is North Korea. And North Korean leader Kim Jong-un has said his country needs to prepare for both dialogue and confrontation with the United States under President Joe Biden. This is what is reported about an hour ago. Now, at a meeting of the Central Committee of the ruling Workers' Party of Korea yesterday, Kim Jong-un outlined his strategy for relations with Washington and the policy, and the word, their quote is, the policy tendency of the newly emerged U.S. administration. So Kim Jong-un further stressed the need to get prepared for both dialogue and confrontation, especially to get fully prepared for confrontation in order to protect the dignity of their state and reliably guarantee a peaceful environment. Now, he further called for sharply and promptly reacting and coping with the fast-changing situation and concentrating efforts on taking stable control of the situation on the Korean Peninsula. I don't know about you, but someone like Kim Jong-un, it could just seem like an empty threat, but at the same time, it could seem like a very legitimate threat.
Who's he threatening to nuke now?
Well, if he's saying, yeah, sure, we can prepare for dialogue. Yeah, that's all good and well. Let's sit down and talk. But at the same time, we're also preparing for confrontation. Like, what's that supposed to mean? That is a bit of a threat.
He
Like,
seems like
I'll talk to you, but it's going to be rough.
my actions speak louder than my words.
Yeah,
exactly. Let's have peaceful conversations. Let's meet at a table and talk, but I will be bringing my armed rifle. Like, that's what he's essentially saying to the US and to the world. Anyways, don't want to mess with that guy.
Does he leave North Korea and like go to like G7 summits or anything? Or don't Oaks quite like him?
No, he's not really.
I'm not 100% sure.
The world, and he wasn't invested in the G7.
Didn't he once meet up with Donald Trump?
Yes, but Donald had to go to him.
He's actually like that friend who always wants to host at their house and never wants to make the drive to your house. Because then as soon as you go, no, I live in Waterfall, they're like, oh, so far.
Yeah, but I feel like if he leaves there, he's less safe. He's more safe if he stays there and people come visit him in his like gated estate than him leaving and then having a whole bunch of security. Yeah, because I don't think he's a very well-liked man.
Well, in North Korea,
he is the only man.
People are led to believe that he's amazing, and they would never harm him. So that is where he's safest.
And then the last story you need to know this morning, I don't know, perhaps it's just me, but I think it means more to people in the US than it does over on this side. But the United States yesterday designated Juneteenth, which marks the end of slavery in the country as a federal holiday, with President Joe Biden urging Americans to learn from our history. Now, most US states recognize Juneteenth as a holiday or commemorate the day, but the bill made the 19th of June the 12th federal holiday and the first new one in 38 years. Now, the date has taken on renewed resonance in recent years, with millions of Americans bringing up the likes of race relations and racial injustice in the country. But in a statement, President Joe Biden said, "This is a day of profound weight and profound power, and to remember the moral stain and the terrible toll that slavery took on the country and continues to take, what I've long called America's original sin." Now, I'm not making light of the situation at all. And this is exactly why I say perhaps it has more resonance in the United States than it does here on this side. But I watched part of the commemoration or the signing of this holiday into being yesterday. And it just seemed so staged and so fake. So there were... Good old Nancy Pelosi was part of everything that was happening a few hours ago with Juneteenth. And it seemed like she just said, call on all the Black people you know, let's put them all together, invite the media, and then let's have a kumbaya moment. And I mean a literal kumbaya moment, because they sang a song. Firstly, you don't want to see politicians sing. But they sang a song called Lift Every Voice, and it is traditionally sung by Black people in times of struggle. It's been like a song that is sung through hard times. I'm going to play a bit of it. You tell me if maybe I'm just overreacting, but all of this just seems way too staged, way too fake. I think if they really want the true essence of the day and the sentiment of it, there's nothing stopping them from signing it, showing that it has been signed, and they leave. There was no need for this.
Lift every voice and sing till earth and heaven ring. Ring with the harmonies of liberty. Let our rejoicing rise high as the listening skies. Let it resound loud as the rolling sea. Sing a song full of the faith that the dark past has taught us. Sing a song full of the hope that the present has brought us. Facing the rising sun of our new day begun, let us march on till victory is won.
I get what you're saying. Like, I think that was a spur of the moment sort of decision by the man to start singing that, because you would have someone who can actually sing if you wanted it to be like setting and everything. But that man, he couldn't hit a note.
The rising sun.
That was like cringe to watch.
His voice was breaking in some points. I mean, he is a politician, and we weren't expecting much from him as a singer. But the whole setup, if you weren't able to see it, I don't know. It's very American, Sia. You know, it's most things that Americans and American politicians do is a bit cringy to us more conservative South Africans. So yeah, but it's, I don't know. It seemed okay. I was expecting worse, I must be honest.
See, I overly analyze some things, and it's a pity we can't play the specific portion of the video. When the camera pans, sorry if you're listening, you'll just have to find this video online later, or we'll put it up on cliffcentral.com. When the camera pans over Nancy Pelosi, she wasn't even on the correct line of the song, or perhaps she didn't know all of the lines of the song. So she was sort of buying face by looking over at the other people next to her and smiling at that. It was just way too staged. And this is what I thought when I first saw the video. The country is called the United States of America. If you want to unite people, why didn't you just sing your national anthem?
Which one was Nancy?
Nancy Pelosi was in that. She's the one who has the bob and the two. I'm noticing fashion. I don't know. She was the white woman in the midst of all the black people.
Did you see? They were like holding up the like declaration, and it was blocking her from all the cameras. You couldn't see her.
I think she was probably blocking her mouth to not make it obvious that she doesn't know the words to the song.
Yeah. La 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 la. Oh dear.
So cringeworthy. I honestly think that was really bad. Corona's Boring says the sound of Parliament was sung much better. Nico says, my ears just grew legs and ran for the hills. Tracy says, my ears are bleeding. Surely someone else was available, right? If they wanted to really make this a moment, they could have hired someone to beautifully sing this.
And like, you can't sing. Why would you volunteer to sing on like a news station that's being broadcast to the world? Like, that's not the time for you to think you can sing.
But also, it's got a lot to do with sound production, guys. I mean, his mic should have been
needed auto-tune.
But his mic needed to be turned off.
Yeah.
And there needed to be a mic taking in the crowd singing, because I felt like they had a bit of a better tune.
I agree with you there. Because his mic was way like at the top, and all you could hear was him.
Yeah.
You couldn't even hear Nancy or see Nancy.
We couldn't see Nancy because she didn't want us to see her. Going back to some comments this morning from some earlier news stories, let's see what people are saying.
Let the people speak.
Yeah, Steph says, Sia, for many of us, it's fresh history. I remember when June 16 wasn't a holiday, but we didn't go to school on that day due to possible dangerous demonstrations. Wow. So this is in reference to what I was mentioning a little earlier about people who are part of history who still live amongst us. Steph, here's something interesting to what you've mentioned. And maybe I'm being a little too deep on a Friday morning as well, but this is to your point around the fact that it's fresh history and you really lived through all of this. I would have loved to know, as someone who was born in 1995, and history doesn't really talk about this much, what happened the day after. I wouldn't even say the 27th of April, because that was South Africa's first democratic election. But when the ANC was announced as the ruling party, Nelson Mandela was announced as the new president of South Africa, what happened on that day in the country? Because that meant...
Have you not watched Invictus?
No, that's around the... I've watched years ago, but maybe we're on two different points here. My point is... the exact literal day afterwards, when now it says, despite your race, you are able to go wherever you want to in the country. And there are no, by this time you need to be out of this area. And actually now we can all be in the same spaces. What happened on that first day? I wonder, to have been a fly on that wall. Like, I wonder what that was like.
I feel like
I was there.
I could be wrong as well, but I feel like, Sia, you're looking at it like in a day, everything just switched over. Surely there was like a gradual build-up of new implementation and laws, or the reduction of laws, and over time. Surely it wasn't just a like wake up tomorrow.
Yeah, it was gradual, and it wasn't like, we didn't have much to rely on in terms of reflecting what was really going on the streets. you have to try and think of days before TikTok and Facebook and social media and WhatsApp.
And before as well, when there were 24-hour news channels where you were constantly updated.
Exactly.
Like, there are no riots, everything's peaceful now, you can go out.
Yeah, I mean, you got 1 hour of news at 8 o'clock at night, an hour of news in the morning, and I don't even think that was a thing until later on. And possibly something at 6 o'clock in the afternoon. So we didn't know. We just got on with our lives and went to school and carried on. It's completely different to now.
Was everything like cash payments back then? Like, because there was no credit cards or EFTs.
No,
I was thinking about how you bought the TV.
Cards. They were cards, except we used them in a machine that would make a photocopy or through duplicating paper.
Oh my gosh, yes.
So that the numbers would be impressed through the ink. But my word, you're making me feel terribly old. But also we used checks in those days. We used a lot of checks. It was nothing unusual to go to Checkers and write out a check. But why were you asking about we were using cash?
Oh, I was wondering how you bought the TV.
We would have used a check.
He thought you were there with coins. Like, here you go. Here's my stack of coins for this team. Good points, though.
There was no credit cards or ATMs. There was nothing digital back then. So
no, there were.
I assume everyone had to carry like wads of cash.
There were ATMs. There were ATMs. I mean, I just have to remember at that point I had a Bob T account, which was for FNB. It was a teenage account. And that card we would put into an ATM machine. Whether it was going to come out again or not was
it was like a gamble. You
another
never knew.
Story.
Whoa.
Yeah, I got bussed many times banking varsity because a card in an area that I wasn't supposed to be in, or a machine rather, had swallowed my card. And you literally have to wait. You have to wait for them to come and open the machine and give you your card. Or they'll post it back to you after a few days.
You have lived, girl. You were trying to bunk school. You were trying to be with a man. This would happen. Look, I know it is a bit of a bizarre thought that I had. But it's long sat with me and in my mind to think, what was the country like the days following, our democratic election and whatnot? Because I'm sure there was still a sense of distrust. Just because laws now say we're all free and we should all accept each other doesn't mean, perhaps some people did. And I don't think if I was alive in those days, I would have been like, oh yeah, sure, let me go to the middle of Sandton and stay there up until 9 p.m. I would have been like, okay, back to Soweto I go.
Yeah. I mean, people's the rules and the guidelines and the government stipulations changed way before people's opinions did. It took a very long time for white South Africans, and I can only speak on behalf of white South Africans, and even then, not on behalf of all of them. But it took a long time to adjust to this. It's almost as if it was happening before our eyes on TV before we'd been able to process it. And again, that's just due to lack of the connections that we have today and the ability to see opinionated people speak their truths and have it readily available on platforms on our phones.
Right. And Zanele also echoes what we were talking about a little earlier, saying, you're right, Sia, what a blessing to live in a time with people who were part of the struggle that liberated us. Pity history isn't a priority in school like back in our days. And then here's a message from Timba Wangu, who says, good morning, I'm a new subby here after watching MacG yesterday. To you, Timba, and to many other people, welcome. And we do have to put a disclaimer and say to all of you, welcome to the Gareth Cliff Show. Come back on Monday as well. and Gareth will be back. This isn't just how the show is all the time. Don't worry, come back on Monday and you'll see so much more. So look, yeah, we have even more news and great stories for you straight after this. But for now, we have to take a break. This is the Gareth Cliff Show on cliffcentral.com.
This week on Auto Central.
Well, that's what the episode's about today. You know, when we're talking about actually living with an EV. So there's obviously lots of myths and misconceptions about actually owning an EV, what that entails. So just off the bat, what are the 3 words to summarize your experience thus far about owning an EV?
I don't know if I could sum it up in 3 words, but if I try, it's probably fast, tranquil, and then the third one's not quite a word. It's like driving your iPhone. Catch Auto Central, SA's #1 motoring podcast, every Monday at 9 a.m.
Some people want to forget all about the 80s. Some people would prefer not to remember the hairstyles, the movies, the fashion, those pants we used to wear. God, those pants we used to wear. Some people would prefer to never hear an 80s song ever again. We are not those people. That 80s show. Music, movies, obscure references, and so many unchecked factoids. Fridays, 9 a.m. on Cliff Central. People say we're stuck in the 80s, like it's a bad thing.
The 80s show on Cliff Central sounds really cool. Why's my camera off? I love 80s and 90s music. I probably wouldn't get the references and stuff though.
Yeah, Flax,
or the people they speak about.
It's a little lost on us because, yeah, this is not our time at all. Good morning and welcome to the Gareth Cliff Show. My name is Sia Sangweni and here with Michael Flax and Leigh-Ann as well, taking Gareth's place this morning as he is off for the day, but he'll be back on Monday and we get everything started again in the next fresh and full week, actually, full 5-day week next week. So, yeah, Flax, you're right by saying the 80s seems like way back when, but actually when you think about it, the 80s was 40 years ago. 1980 was 40 years ago.
Would you choose 80s and 90s music over like this WAP and stuff they're playing now? I would 100% choose 80s and 90s music.
We are living in the times of
mumble rap. You literally asked for rap you can't even hear and you've labeled it mumble. Like that isn't okay. Oh, remember we were talking about people dropping albums? Mm-hmm. Ed Sheeran's also dropping an album. And his music looks really good. I think he released like one
getting
song.
A haircut at the very least.
No, Ed goes through like stages where what I like about Ed is things happen to him in life and then he writes about it. So obviously he'll write about like him having a child now and things like that. Before he was going through like breakups and stuff and writing songs about that. And now it's like, I believe he's in a happy place. He's got his first child. He's got a beautiful wife. They love each other. And now he's going to produce some beautiful love songs.
Oh
lots to look forward to there, Flax.
And he's been in lockdown. So like, there's nothing else to do but focus on your music. So it has to be good.
Look, I don't know if we'll choose Ed Sheeran over the 80s, but it is a bit of a shock to realize just how far back the 80s were. Rebellious Ruth actually also notes my shock that I brought up, that the 80s were 40 years ago. So Flax, you and I were a little confused by how life was back in the day, in Leigh-Ann's times. And so at least there's some people who are siding with you, Leigh-Ann, and they're bringing up some 80s references. So
geez,
Woody says
80s. I was still a thought. I was still like a tadpole. I wasn't even born. I don't even think I was a thought yet.
Were your parents even together? Because for me, 1980.
No, my parents married young. Eh? My parents married at like 18, 19 years old. They had their first child, my older brother, when they were like 20, 21.
Jeez. And does this reference make sense?
Having a child that young.
Yeah, in this day and age. But Leigh-Ann, does this reference make sense to you? That time the perm was still a bank and had nothing to do with hair.
Yes, you had the perm bank. It had I think it was like a continuous, it was a triangle logo in orange. And it was almost like a hypnosis thing where the line carried on and on onto the inside of the triangle. I remember that.
Sort of vibes.
Yeah. It was also in the days when ABSA was very different to what it is now. Yeah.
It's like ABSA and Standard Bank, like the original OGs of banks.
Now, this is again something I'd have to Google, but we had other banks before that even. In fact, we had Barclays Bank. That was big in those days. Barclays still exists overseas, I believe.
Yeah.
Well, Barclays is somehow in partnership with ABSA or a part of ABSA.
And
from an ad.
Tanya also brings up Trust Bank. That was also a thing.
That's a cool name for a bank, Trust Bank. Like, think about what it means. You trust your bank, Trust Bank.
I have never heard of any of these. Flax, have you heard of them?
No, I'm not seeing any ABSAs or Standard Banks coming up here. But like when I went to Kimberley, there's like one of the first Standard Banks there that you can walk into when they, like in Kimberley, they got that
still
old
operational
place you can have a look at. No. But it's like labeled one of the first Standard Banks. It's really cool just to like walk in. Because now we're all digital banking. But I imagine you'd walk in there and you'd probably wait for hours for like a single teller, and then you'd get like one private banker or whatever they want to call it, and you'd go into his room and he'd probably be smoking. You'd probably smoke a cigarette in there, and then you'd hand him over like a check, which would take like years to actually get processed or something. Because checkbooks are out. I remember my parents used to use checkbooks a lot, and you could actually go to the bank and give them like a check. And I thought, like, you could fraud this check system. You could just steal someone's checkbook or something and write down some numbers, and make a fake signature. Like, how did that even pass?
On that note, listen to this reference. We had manual machines to make an imprinted copy of the card slip. You groaned when someone in front of you in the queue used a card because it took so long.
Yes.
What?
So you would actually need to fill out things on the piece of paper as well. And even with a check, a rubber stamp would be put onto the back of the check, and you had to stand there and fill in your name, address, phone number, which was a landline, sign it. But check fraud was a real thing. If you had to be careful not to have a signed check. Like sometimes my mom might have given me a signed check, which is a blank check, to go and buy some things. But if that check got taken from me on the way to the store, someone could have made it out for any amount of money. That's if if the bank actually, if your account had the money in it. But also there were no live checks, like live authentications or anything like that. So you would only find out a week later that the check had bounced.
How would you check like your bank statements or know how much is left in your account?
They were posted to us, our bank statements.
So you would only have access to it once a month?
Yes.
How would you track your expenses and know if you still have money left?
We used so we had
general ledgers.
Yes, general ledgers, definitely.
Oh
we had
imagine filling out a general ledger every time you go to Checkers.
We had our check counterfoils, which kept a written record of what checks we made.
I remember that. It's like the column that stays in the checkbook after you've ripped the check out, right?
Oh, yes.
Yes. So those were important.
I remember that.
It's like a little fan in the checkbook.
Yeah. No. Oh, my Lord. Oh, Lord. You know what? It's really tough being the oldest one on the show, I must say.
Okay, I'm not at all trying to make you seem 40,000 years old. Yeah, but how do you not do a hallelujah praise dance in 2021 when you can now just tap your card and go? How do you not? How is your mind still not blown?
No, it's amazing. And I mean, I just think of my job in social media and all the tools I use and how we're now going over into AI, even for copywriting and things like that. And I'd actually appreciate a moment from your guys' generation to say, geez, you've really adapted well.
Yeah, like
absolutely.
Like going clubbing with mates and then back for like the post-jawl, filling out general ledgers so we know how much we spent that night. Like at a bar, handing them a check for like a round of drinks.
Yeah, that's the way it worked.
Now it's just tap and go.
You really have adjusted so well. I think about some of these news channels that not even have a Skype or Zoom a guest in, but it's being done here and there where it's a hologram of a guest. So no, CNN, for example, I've experimented with it a little. How do you, born in the 80s, not sit and go, wow, in my lifetime, I went from having to copy my card to pay for something to a hologram on the news?
To cryptocurrencies. I mean, these things are blowing our minds, guys. You know, be gentle on us. We're taking in a lot. You know, and also the advancement of technology is exponential. So if I look at my grandfather, who was born in 1915 and died at the age of 102, 103, he went from having, and I often mention it as a reference, the first X-ray in South Africa, which was you know, hauled in a cart into town. It took months for the machine to reach him, and then he had the X-ray, and months later he got the results. So going from that, so I mean, you look at movies set in the 1915s and in the 1920s, and you imagine there weren't things like X-rays freely available, and he went from that and being involved in the technology industry itself. He was a mining engineer, gold mining engineer, and how he, you know, when he died, in the 20 years before he died, we had just got him onto internet banking. And that blew his mind, how he didn't need to go into a bank anymore in order to do things. But there wasn't much growth comparatively to now, if you think about what I've just explained, where we were using paper that had ink in it to make
paper, no?
Yeah, to make like Roneoed impressions of our cards, to cryptocurrencies. I mean, that's just mind blowing.
I remember my parents used to use the carbon fiber paper a lot, and then I caught on to what it does. And then in school, when you had to do like punishment, like write this out 100 times, I would just use carbon paper and just start writing.
Oh, that's what it is.
The problem is you couldn't see, you could see because you can see it's not an original ink on the other side.
It wasn't my greatest idea, but it was an idea nonetheless.
Oh gosh, like writing lines helps anything. What an antiquated form of punishment.
So how did people like Uber back in the day? Or like, surely you couldn't still phone a taxi company to come fetch you and stuff?
No, you'd have to phone on a landline, a taxi company, and that would, you'd had to arrange it well in advance. But
say you're at the club already and
oh no, you just have to drive
home.
No, you drive home, or you find a friend, or you take a taxi, or you take a bus.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Look, Michael, all of these conversations just make me certain in answering the question you asked a little earlier. I'm happy in these times. I will take mumble rap just because I can also take Uber and Tap and Go and the internet, and I would, no thank you.
I have vivid memories of the days when there was no Uber Eats and you'd phone the Mr. Delivery person and you'd chat to them about your order.
3 years ago.
And then you'd tell them what you want and you won't be able to track the vehicle. The vehicle will arrive at like any time and something would be wrong with your order. Then you'd phone her back and you'd be like, sorry, I ordered this with this and this. There'd be no resolution. Nothing would be solved.
No,
but you'd at least voiced your opinion.
You just ate what you got.
Yeah. And it was cold. And you had to have cash. You had to pay with cash. If my parents were like working, I'd like scurriage for like coins around the house.
Flax, if you didn't have vivid memories of 3 years ago, I would actually be greatly concerned.
This was more than 3 years ago. I remember using the yellow pages to phone like hardware stores and stuff still. And when my parents first got Wi-Fi in the house, it was previously I had to go sit like in this cold room by the entrance, next to the telephone and like plug in my laptop. And then they got Wi-Fi and then they never saw me because I was always in my room.
That was like a life-changing thing.
Yeah. Back on those days, there was this thing me and my mates used to do where, I don't know if you remember it, but it was you would phone this number and then you could put in a code and they'd send you through to a chat room. And then you'd be with your mates in this chat room. And anyone could join this chat room if they just typed in a random number and guessed yours. And we'd just like, there would be such banter in this chat room going on. But then I'm pretty sure my parents got like very high phone bills. I'm not sure how it worked back then. I doubt it was unlimited.
Yeah, definitely not unlimited.
That is bizarre. Look, talking about all of these good old days and whatnot, referencing parents, it is Father's Day this coming Sunday. So happy Father's Day to any fathers who are listening right now. Do you guys have any plans for your fathers this Sunday?
It's a tricky one.
It always seems like we put all our energy into Mother's Day in May. And then Father's Day rolls around and we're like, oh. And you kind of remember your dad going, oh, it's ridiculous that you guys buy gifts. You really shouldn't. And you think, maybe he's right. And you just don't bother.
I feel like, Flax, do you have anything planned?
No, it's a tricky one. I was like, because of this whole third wave and stuff, I'm like, do I really want to feel guilty like going to see my parents and my grandfather and stuff? Or do I just hold off for like 2 weeks for this third wave to die down? Because I'd hate to be the reason they catch any like COVID from me. So I was thinking like maybe let me just ask them politely if we could hold off for like a week or two. We'll still celebrate it, but in a week or two. But like this whole hype and things like Valentine's Day, even people want to celebrate it on the day, but they don't know if you celebrate it like 2 weeks later, everything's half price. You get a half price flowers, you get half price like dinners, etc. Everyone just amps up prices. And why is it set to this Sunday is Father's Day? Like, what's the relevance to this Sunday and not Sunday in 2 weeks? Like, you can celebrate it whenever you want. It's a whole marketing spiel.
Absolutely.
I don't fight it much anymore. And my parents, they yeah, if you think I'm slightly cuckoo, then my parents are on a whole other level. So I definitely get it from them. And I can judge them on a lot of things. But the one thing that I'm still so pleasantly surprised by is how grateful they are for anything that they get. Like genuinely grateful for anything that they get from us as kids. Even just the fact that I can only cook like 5 meals. So if I'm at home and I feel like cooking dinner for everyone, they'll still be so grateful. They'll be like, this is the best scrambled egg we've ever had. I'm like, the same scrambled egg I'm doing of my life. So with that said, I have the same type of gift in different variations I get for my mother, and I have the same type of gift that I get in different variations for my dad. So I have that all down as well, and I know he'll just be so grateful.
Yeah.
And I feel a little bad, but I know it's just easier this way.
No, 100%. It takes, I'm slowly watching my mom turn into my grandmother. And there were things that my mom would always phone us as kids and say, please phone your grandmother. You haven't phoned her in a week. Just phone her. I know it's like a schlep and you don't have much to say, but just phone her because she loves it. Or we haven't seen Gran in a month. We need to go and see her. And now I'm watching my mom go into that after sympathizing with us. She's now saying, I haven't seen you in a week. When am I going to see you? And phoning me every day. And to watch her gratitude when you give her something like a new pair of slippers and a blanket and some hand cream, and just the absolute joy that she'll even get, develop tears over it. And say, you guys are my present, the fact that you're here. And we're all just hustling and working and living for the weekend. Where they're sitting there every day thinking, when am I going to see this person? It's the most important thing to them.
Shame,
That's so true.
Yeah. Okay, so we say all of that to say, Leigh-Ann, you have some grown-worthy dad jokes for us today. I don't know where this will go. Do you need any further disclaimer? I've already said cringe-worthy and grown-worthy. So take it away. What do you have?
A lot of these are like a blast from the past for me as well, and scenes we're on that trip. We used to get these long-awaited books that we would buy, like 1001 jokes for kids and 5002 jokes for dads and that sort of thing. But I'm also noticing that it's a trend on TikTok where you'll have two grown men telling each other dad jokes and they're trying not to laugh. The first one to laugh is out. And they're the most pathetic jokes. But things like, I just saw a burglar kicking his own door in. I asked, what are you doing? And he said, working from home. How do you make a Kleenex dance? Put some boogie in it. Oh, God.
These are good jokes. They're like,
it's the fact that you find this funny. No, it's the fact that you find it funny that's sad and funny to me.
Imagine you're like standing in the queue at like...
Yeah.
You bring out one of these jokes just to the person behind you. Like, that's mad banter.
That would be awesome.
Quick jokes. It's not like a full story.
No.
Why can't you trust atoms? Because they make up everything.
Goodbye. We are cutting this. Thank you, Leigh-Ann. Thank you very much.
Bad.
We are done with that.
Yeah.
So bad. And
Look,
dads do it, hey.
Oh, I got a good one.
Dads think that they bring us joy.
Why was the broom late for school? It overswept.
Oh, God.
Can we have something of substance, please? Let's salvage the show here. Leigh-Ann, you also have 5 surefire signs that you're too burnt out at your job. This comes, funnily enough, on a Friday when a lot of people are feeling really, really tired. So what are those? What can we look out for?
So, is it just me or are these natural
We're all
everyday
tired,
occurrences? Yes. I mean, this is like saying, okay, you're going to suffer burnout. You could end up having absolute mental fatigue or a mental breakdown. But to me, these things are just, they go with every job. Am I not right? Number one, your job feels too stressful.
Everyone's job's stressful.
Exactly. Number two, you dread going to work. We all dread going to work at some point, especially now if we have to actually go into work. You can't focus at work. Gee, story of my life. That's all I'm trying to do is focus, you know? It's a tough thing. You're overly emotional. What was I just saying? You know?
No. I think that's not normal. I don't think that's healthy. You're getting ready for work and you're gearing up to just be on a roller coaster of emotion. I don't think that's healthy. I think that's a sign of burnout.
No, I don't know. When you're working with clients and they expect the world of you and you take things personally, it's very easy to do that.
But think about what Dr. Hanan said. You have pockets of energy every single day. Where
you only have
are
so
you
much.
choosing to place that energy? Namaste.
And the last one is your accomplishments don't improve your mood. Now, I think that's an important one.
Yeah.
You know, if doing something good at work or being recognized doesn't get you all excited, then it might be a problem. But as for the rest of them, I think we go through those things all day. Does it mean that we're all burning out? You know, the world will stop turning again if we stop working.
You actually think about like being in the office and stuff, and you used to see like people burn out in the office and they'll start crying, and then someone has to come to them, and then the boss will take them into the office and they're still crying, and then they come out and you know they were crying, and then you're trying to console them like everything's gonna be all right. I don't know what happened, but everything's gonna be all right. And then the boss lets them go home for the day. I miss those scenes in the office.
Oh gosh.
Yeah,
you would
that's the
see
thing.
someone cry.
Yeah,
for
people
sure.
have burnouts in the office all the time. Like a client will say something mean to them, or someone will blame them for something they didn't do. Then they'll start crying. And it's always the same process. Boss takes them into the office, has a talk to them. They come out, they're still semi-crying. Boss lets them go home.
No ways.
It's actually a good hack to go home. Just start crying in the office. Why take a half day on a Friday when you can just drop some tears and go home?
There's certain things in my opinion that just should not be normal and should not be a thing. And crying at the office, I'm sorry, I wouldn't put up with that.
No, it happens all the time. People, their office is their second home. They have like every right to be emotional there, and sometimes they have to carry through what happened at home into the office. Like the amount of times I've been in the office and people have received like really bad news, and they're in the office, and they react as they should, and it's sad to see. And then they look to you to like console them and stuff like that.
Get it together. Use the same principle that I use, which is whether you need to crap or whether you need to cry, you leave the office and you go to a drive-thru or a different restaurant and you do it there. Then you wipe yourself off. You wipe yourself off and you come back to the office.
If you see someone crying in McDonald's drive-thru, it's Sia.
Yeah. Looking for the key for the toilet.
Yeah.
Oh God, I'm glad you're not my boss. Yeah.
Yeah.
Gosh,
Imagine
no, I don't feel bad at all.
Go take a lap around the drive-thru and then come back, and everything will be all right.
Yeah, scrub some dirt in your eyes. Get a grip. Get a hold of yourself. Jeez.
I don't think your job is stressful enough. Not that I think about it.
Yeah, may the worst part of your job be finding an aux cable in the morning, Sia.
Michael Flax, that is a very personal point, and I'm still not over that. It's way too soon. I know how advanced we get and we are getting as society in conversations around emotions and showing emotions, and men can cry and whatnot, but there's still something very off-putting to me about losing losing a hold of your emotions in general. And whether that's if you're at the office and you scream because you just can't handle it, or you cry, or no. To me, that's not healthy. And particularly with tears, I've never been a person who can handle tears. So cry away, but just don't do it around me. Sorry. Is that horrible? But that's just how I feel.
Like, I don't do well when people start crying. Like, I'm not good at consoling, if that makes sense. Now, in an office environment, it's even worse. But I think some offices have people that deal with that stuff. Like, if someone's crying, don't you go to like HR or something?
Yeah, straight to HR.
I don't know. Maybe I'm not winning with this because Monica says, "See, no one wants to do it. They just end up crying." Well, that's just like saying no one wants to poop their pants, but we all avoid doing it because
you brought it
how
up
to survive in society.
Much easier to control that than control crying.
Definitely.
Like if someone needs to cry, you can't hold that in. No, you can't.
If you need to cry, you get a little misty. You feel the mist.
No. This is where you're very similar to Gareth. I think you guys think that it's like a thing that you really can control. I don't think to myself, okay, now I'm going to have a cry. It just happens. It's like sweat. You can't help it.
It's okay to cry.
What?
That's the younger generation. They don't think it's okay to cry, and it's okay to cry. It's okay
Michael,
to feel.
Please. So Lenise says, I had a terrible client one day in the hair salon. Lenise, your surname is Cuts, and you work at a hair salon.
Lenise Cuts hair.
Sorry. Okay. Back to it.
Very good.
Lenise Cuts hair. So she says, I had a terrible client one day in the hair salon. Yes. She had my assistant in tears. She was so rude. I told the client to never come back again. Lenise, I'm not making excuses for horrible people and bad service or whatever the case is, but crying in front... How would you feel if your lawyer was busy defending you? It's a divorce settlement or it's some sort of business thing, and you are trying to get back your 3 million rands in court, and then your lawyer cries? Oh, I would give up. I would just fold my arms and know that I've lost it now.
I'd feel like he's really got his heart in it. And then I'd feel like he lost it.
I'd probably pay him more.
I'd be like, this is amazing. You really care about me, but you've gone and messed this up now.
I wouldn't want my surgeon crying while he's taking my appendix out, you know.
Thank you.
No.
Look, I'm so overwhelmed. I don't know where to make this incision.
There's certain jobs you can't cry. So if you're a lawyer and if you're a doctor, doctor during surgery, a lawyer during court, you can't cry.
Gosh, thank you, Ruth. Here's Ruth. Ruth says someone's boss's own mother died and they continued working throughout the day.
That's not okay. Like,
no.
Are you trying to numb yourself or like forget what's happening right in front of you? Like, people need to start feeling things more and be okay to let their emotions out instead of bottling them up.
Michelle says, I cried this week. I'm one of many that cried.
Yeah.
Where do you come from?
Sometimes I'll even just watch a sad movie to cry because you just got to let it out.
But even then, that's allowing yourself to. But there is a definite loss of control when it comes to crying. The tears just come. You can will them back as much as you like, but they'll be there.
Oh, you cannot hold that in.
May I clarify this? What sort of cry is it? You know, if it's a sniffle, if it is one tear that just escapes your eyeball, I think maybe that might be acceptable. You wipe that off, you carry on working, or perhaps you know that a whole avalanche is coming, then you leave the room. But if you break out into a puddle, believe you me, I'm not standing up for that nonsense.
Oh, no, I believe go big or go home, eh?
Yeah,
the snot must go, the R's, hyperventilating, shaking. You shouldn't be able to talk while you're crying.
Yeah.
Full effort.
If you can talk while you're crying, then you're not crying enough.
You're sobbing. You're not crying.
I love how we've struck a nerve here with our audience, because this is I find it a little ironic. Someone with the name John Bad Dog Hell No, how badass does that name sound, says, I cry at anything, but my wife always looks at me with a heart of stone. John Bad Dog, you cried at anything?
Do you know what I haven't experienced yet is happy crying. When you can't stop crying because you're so happy or you can't believe something that's happened. I can't remember the last time I did that.
I did that very recently. Remember, Sia, I mentioned that I had a birthday party with 3 1-year-olds. So as I got out the car...
That was like 2 weeks ago, right?
Yeah. As I got out the car, my cousin was there with said little 1-year-old, and he was looking too cute, and I love him to bits. And then out of the car, unexpectedly, came their 8-week-old golden retriever puppy. Well, it was too much. I had to turn away, and the tears were just streaming down my face. So yeah, I'm sharing a moment here. You're not making it very comfortable for me. And also, you should never be in HR.
No.
Sorry.
And also, after everything that I've confided in you, just because they weren't crying things, I've been lucky so far. I'm going to put next to your name in my phone, if you're crying, do not call.
No, just do not call me. I can deal with it. I don't know. Maybe it really is a deeper or weirdly rooted issue for me. But there's something about tears that I can't handle. I can deal with any type of emotion, but tears, not so much. Do you guys think, I'm not saying do it now, but wherever you are, even as you listening, are you one of those people who you could think about something and end up crying?
Yes.
Yeah, of course.
Bro, I think about movies like Molly and Me, and I want to cry.
You know,
I can't even watch August Rush anymore. I can't even it's too sad.
You know, I've never understood people, for example, who cry over an ad. I'm like, it's 30 seconds. I haven't even been able to heave twice in 30 seconds to muster up tears. People cry over ads?
Good ad with a good soundtrack can get you. It can hit you in the feels. I remember there was one of those Arrive Alive ads, and it was so sad. It was about this accident that happened, and this little boy was left with no parents. It was so, in 30 seconds, they had me crying.
Listen, if I watch a wildlife program and there's a prey attack, I'll bawl. I need to change the channel.
Some people cried Lion King even.
Get your act together.
No.
Pull yourself together.
That is the worst line. Pull up your socks or pull yourself together. Those are the worst things you can say to someone who is having a moment, because they can't.
You got to feel. People must be feel.
I really know that I'm not good with dealing with this, because, the sentiment is often treat people the way you'd like to be treated. So, oh no, just do what you would want in a situation. The last thing I want, on the rare occasion that I cry, is someone going, oh, shame. Are you okay? Oh, come here. Oh, leave me alone. Get away from me.
That is exactly what I want and need.
Shut up and leave.
Give me a hug and tell me everything's going to be all right, and I'll stop crying.
Maybe I'm like Mapelo. Mapelo says, I haven't cried since November 2019 when my dad passed on. Very few things make me cry. And, maybe this is contrary to popular belief. I don't cry a lot either. I can, honest to goodness, count on one hand the number of times I've cried since 2013.
No.
Jeez.
No.
Yeah.
Do you even have tear ducts?
I don't know. I Botox them away. Botox them dry. Don't have any of that now. No.
That would make sense, because you do use Botox to stop sweating under your armpits.
Yeah.
Good point. And I particularly remember 2013. Well, I cried the day before my first niece was born, and that was because my sister and I had a fight, and we were really going at each other, and she was the pregnant one, and everyone started
not
saying, "No." And everyone started saying, "No, you can't fight with a pregnant woman. Let her be." And I was getting so frustrated. I'm like, "Let me scream at her, okay?" And that's how I cried. So I'm also not a conventional crier. And I particularly raised 2013 because that was the time I was in matric that year, and was I did our year's commencement speech, so wrapping up the year in front of the parents, in front of our staff members, and the whole grade. And I got right up to the last few lines of the speech. And listen, as an Oprah baby, I was thinking, oh, wait, this is the last time I'll ever speak to them. And you think it's narcissistic? I was like, this is the last time I'll ever get to inspire them. And that's why I cried. I couldn't care a damn whether I'll see them again or what they do with their lives. I didn't care about that. I was just like, oh, I'll never get to speak again. So that's why I cried.
I don't know what to say, Sia.
Neither.
Spare me the nonsense of tears and
I mean,
adverts
people
and
must
whatnot.
irritate you so much. How do you watch TV dramas? Because they're bound to be at least 2 crying scenes in each episode.
Yeah, how do you watch Oprah? You love Oprah. Everyone cries in Oprah.
I've only cried once watching an episode of Oprah, and that was really like an
Because
episode
it was over.
Yeah, but you're watching the people, the interviewees who are spilling out their life stories and crying. Do you sit there smiling or
No.
at them crying?
No, but manage your emotions, guys. Come on, like manage your emotions.
Do not hit me with manage your emotions if I'm
No,
crying.
you can't.
Oh my, that's my limit.
So that would be like me telling you you're only allowed to wee 300 mils, 30 mils. You can't wee any more than that.
Ooh,
Guys, we have certain
great
Manage your bladder. Manage how much
Yes.
water your bladder is producing.
we have certain rules in society that we abide by, and I think this is one of them. Anyway, I'm in the minority. I'm in the minority. I very much understand and accept that. So John Bad Dog says, he's back again saying, my husky went missing 30 years ago, and if it just crosses my mind, my thoughts, I break.
Oh, cute.
See, you
Can
horrible,
someone read this?
horrible
No,
man.
I'm sorry. Okay. Karen says, August Rush, I cried from beginning to end. Also, any movie about animals break out the waterworks.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Okay. All right. You know what? Maybe here's someone who's a bit of a tiebreaker. George Meany's here. It's a Friday, so it's time for the Auto Central Power Pod. George every week brings us some motoring news, gets us going, knows how he can better inform us and educate us about the world of cars and such. George, before we get started with an update, good morning, by the way. Are you much of a crier?
Not really.
Okay. How do you deal with people who cry?
Try and be empathetic, try and understand their situation. But unless you've been through the situation, it's very difficult to, feel someone else's pain.
Have you ever seen someone cry in a Ferrari? I heard that doesn't happen.
Yes.
Is that Flax?
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh, look who's back. It's Flax.
And then George, last comment on this. As the CEO of Auto Trader, if you were minding your own business at the office and someone started crying at the office in the middle of a very serious meeting, would you be able to take them seriously? How would you deal with that?
It's happened before. I've been around the block here, in this business for going on 17 years. So it's happened a few times. And the standard practice is let's take a break. Let's take a minute, go and compose yourself, and then and let's carry on in about 5 or 6 minutes. So it's really...
You give them a timeline. If you're not done by 5 minutes, it's George the sleeping driver.
That's going to make it worse, man.
No, you got to be empathetic. You can't be cold-hearted. So you can't sit there and look at the person and say, "Stop crying." It doesn't work like that. You've got to be a little bit empathetic, try and understand the situation. But if you're trying to get through something in business, take a break, come back, and then try and work through the problem.
Okay, I don't know. Should we just say, should we just agree to disagree on this one? I would actually gladly continue with the meeting and let them sob in the corner and just carry on with things.
What if they've got genuine ideas and value to add in the meeting? Because if somebody's not engaged in a meeting, they might as well not be there.
Well, clearly your value has diminished if you're a sobbing wreck.
Oh my lord, sir.
Gosh. George, what's the
good ideas come out of emotion, eh? You just don't know.
Very true.
Okay, then I'll start bringing alcohol to the office, because remember, that's how I deal with my emotions.
I think your frontal cortex is very much a filter, and sometimes you can filter the good things out if your logical brain is too much in action. So sometimes emotion is not a bad thing. It lets the real kind of raw ideas out. So cry, yeah, it's fine.
It clears out the cobwebs.
Anyway,
trying to tell Sia that for like an hour, it's okay to cry.
No, it's not happening.
He's not having any of it.
No,
not at all. George, what is in the news this week?
Well, I brought this one out just for you, Sia. A Florida man.
We love Florida.
A Florida. Is there a Florida in South Africa, do you think?
Yes.
No?
Daarby Roodepoort.
Yeah.
I'm thinking about Florida Road.
Oh, or do you mean is there an equivalent of?
Oh, an equivalent. I'm thinking of the equivalent. I know what Florida is. Is there an equivalent in South Africa of Florida? Anyway, a man chases down his stolen Lamborghini on a scooter. So this gentleman in Florida, he is sitting peacefully in his own living room, and next minute he hears his Lamborghini Urus start up. And Lamborghini Urus isn't a quiet car. And turned out that this 14-year-old boy decided that this Lamborghini Urus was something he wanted. So took the Lamborghini Urus, went on a bit of a joyride, but the story doesn't end there, because the little boy, the 14-year-old, parked the car on the side of the road, got out, was sobbing his eyes out, and when the owner of the car came along on his scooter, approached the boy, and the boy started asking him for advice, unknowingly that this was the owner of the car.
Oh,
wow.
I just stole a car. I don't know what to do. I don't know if I'm in trouble.
What a
like a multi-million rand car, which has more horsepower than any bicycle you'll ever own. Exactly. I'd also panic, but I'd enjoy that joyride, eh? Woo.
Well, the Lambo owner said to the 14-year-old boy, the fact is this is going to be reported to the police, and your best solution is just to be honest, because they'll go easier on you. And at that moment, the police arrived, and, we don't know what the outcome is yet. And apparently, it turns out it wasn't his first crime, though.
Oh, absolute idiot. You see, I'd be pissed that you stole my car, and I'd be pissed at the fact that you have the audacity to cry in front of me.
No, if someone's leaving their Lamborghini with the keys in the door, you have every right to take that joyride.
Every right, Flags. There's something called legal and illegal here.
No, it's called being an opportunistic person. Whenever are you going to get a chance to drive in a Lamborghini?
Well, legally or illegally, you could go for a test drive. You just go to the dealership. You don't have to steal it and go to jail to have a test drive.
George, surely if I went to the Lamborghini dealership, they would not let me test drive a Lamborghini. Or would they?
You're Flax, so they might.
I know, but my credit card says 0001.
And then... First, let me ask you, Sia, are you an anti-vaxxer? Are you going to go for the vaccine when it comes around eventually, maybe 2035?
Yeah, look, the particulars of it, where you stand and ethically and whatnot, that's a complete different story. I want to get it now just because I'm jealous. I need to go on Instagram. I need to say I'm vaccinated. So yes, I'm a vaxxer.
You're a vaxxer. Okay, so Moscow, Russia, as a matter of fact, is giving away free cars to people who get the COVID vaccine. So they're incentivizing, these are 195,000 Rand cars, and they will be giving away 5 per week in a lucky draw. So you go and have your vaccination, you get to enter a lucky draw, and you get to potentially win 1 of 5 cars every single week. Well, obviously you can't have the vaccine every week, so you can only do it once, but they're incentivizing getting the COVID-19 shot by giving away cars.
I actually saw this in the news. Someone commented on it and they were like, in 2020, it's your civic duty to get the COVID vaccine. And then in 2021, it's like, get the COVID vaccine and stand a chance to win a Honda Civic.
So anyone over 18 who receives their first 2-dose COVID-19 vaccine from the 14th of June until the 11th of July would be automatically entered to win this 195,000 Rand car. And good on them. I mean,
like put your syringe in a lucky draw.
Yes, exactly. Revenge in a lucky draw. And then could carbon capture save ICE cars? Another bit of a boring topic, but I don't know what it is about petrol heads, because the moment electric cars start making the inroads into the world, someone comes up with an idea to try and save the internal combustion engine. So a bunch of engineers have come up with this process to extract carbon out of the dirty stuff that combustion engines produce, the CO2, capture it, and then use it to recycle so that it doesn't go into the atmosphere. And it's called carbon capture. Now, they already can do it at a factory, but the factory doesn't move. So they've got a bit of a challenge when it comes to doing it with cars. How do you capture the carbon in a car? Because you've got to effectively extract the carbon, store it, and then dispose of it or reuse it at some point down the line, which means you've got to keep it on the car, which I think is going to be difficult to do. But it's amazing how some people want to save these fossil-fueled cars and fossil fuel manufacturing plants for some reason.
Why? We've proved electric cars are 10 times faster.
10 times faster, 10 times better, 60% cleaner, more fun to drive, quiet. I don't know if it's the noise.
It's like putting money into research and development that is worthless.
Yeah.
Like we're moving towards electric vehicles.
Why do this? I don't understand it. Carbon capture, well, good on you. Maybe we can get some new technologies for other stuff, but not cars. Let's just go electric. I don't see the point, to be honest.
Do you think we will go full electric straight away, or we're going to phase in first from semi-electric and those cars that go from normal combustion and electric and use both?
We have to go full electric.
Hybrids, yes.
You're talking about hybrids. We have to go full electric, Flax, because the trouble with Europe, not the trouble with Europe, the good thing about Europe is they've put down the gauntlet. The UK has said that by 2030, no more internal combustion engine vehicles are allowed to be produced and put on their roads. Most of the other European countries have said 2035 and so on and so forth. So different countries have got different deadlines in Europe, but somewhere between 2030 and 2040 seem to be the deadlines. Now, if a hybrid vehicle has an internal combustion engine that helps drive the car, so it doesn't fit into that deadline.
Okay. I mean, that makes sense. Because I read that Mercedes is no longer putting any money into research and development on combustion vehicles, only electric, and I'm sure the rest follow suit.
Yes, Audi has done the same. So it's a matter of time. That's all it is. And the thing about South Africa is 60% of our production in South Africa is exported to Europe, mostly to England, because they're right-hand drive, and because of that big chunk of our economy going out of the country, the exports, which is a good thing, we have to move to full electric. The transition through hybrid, I don't think is going to be the.
But my question is, we can barely have electricity for our houses now. How are we going to power up our cars?
I just heard this cat. No, so I've got an electric car, Flax. I don't know if you know. It's in my garage.
Which one?
The iPace. So I've been driving that
Jag.
Jag, yes. I've been driving that probably for the last 3 or 4 weeks, and I have not had an issue even through the worst load shedding over the last month. The car charges for an hour, 2 hours a day, and load shedding. If you who's going to get home except for the 18-year-old, maybe Sia, get home at 2 o'clock in the morning? Were you doing a live video at 2 o'clock in the morning the other day, Sia?
At 2 a.m. That is a weekend.
Talking about 2 o'clock in the morning.
You know what I mean?
Yes.
I was like, no, that would never be me.
I thought it was
George,
Bastard.
let's focus on TV.
Okay. So to answer your question, I've been driving this EV now for the last month or so through the worst times of load shedding, and I've never experienced a problem. And at the moment, I don't have enough solar panels on my roof to charge the car fast enough. So I have to rely on Eskom power to charge the car at this point in time. And I haven't faced an issue at all. You do maybe if you do 60, 70 Ks a day in normal driving, it's a lot. If most people think about an EV, I've got to charge the thing from 0 to 100. No, you don't. I'm charging my car maybe from 80 to 100, maybe from 90% to 100, which is very small, short periods of time.
When are you charging it? Are you like plugging it in every day, or you go like a week and then charge?
No. That's the practice that gets you into trouble with an EV. If you treat it like an internal combustion engine vehicle and wait for the tank to empty and then fill it, then you're going to wait 12, 15 hours to charge the thing at your house. Whereas you just plug it in every single night like your cell phone, 1, 2, 3 hours max, and it's fully charged again.
Would you feel comfortable like driving to Cape Town in this electric vehicle? Like where would you even charge up? I guess you plug it into the wall.
No, well, the wall charges are very slow. So they, a car like this from 0 to full is going to take you about 30 hours to charge if you plug it into the wall, because it only charges at about 2.5 kilowatt hours, maybe 3. Whereas fast chargers charge at 22, 33, and 66 kilowatt hours. So there is a fast charger every 200 Ks on every major highway in South Africa.
Really? Already?
Wow.
Yeah.
I did not know that. That's great.
No, that's impressive.
If you go and look at my social media feed, you'll see I've put maps of where these chargers are. So they're all over the place. Talking about electric cars, Norway is leading the world when it comes to EVs. And they're facing a little bit of a challenge at the moment because the penetration of EVs in their market is so high now. The government is starting to lose tax because they've incentivized it so much. So they're looking at bringing the taxes back to cars in Norway now that they've got this high penetration, which I think is the way that South Africa should go. We should drop the taxes across the board for a period of time, get the transition to happen, and then reintroduce the taxes slowly. It's not like the government can operate without tax. They have to have tax. So let's not think that they can't operate, or should I say they can operate without tax. The fact of the matter is they need the taxes, but we should lower those taxes for a period of time to get people to switch.
George, is the progress to your liking when it comes to the world is moving and taking on EVs and that trend?
Sorry, say the beginning again. You stuttered. Well,
would you say it is? Can you hear me now? Are we all good?
Yeah.
Yeah. Is the progress to your liking? Do you think the world is moving as fast as it could when it comes to adopting electronic vehicles or electric vehicles?
Yes, I think if it wasn't for Elon Musk, the answer to that would be no. But because of him, the world is progressing very fast, and I think it's as fast as it can go. The biggest challenge isn't the EV. The biggest challenge is the battery. The battery technology in the world is lagging everything else. Silicon chip, it's lagging software development, it's lagging aesthetics. It's just the battery development is that's what's holding back a real mass adoption, because it's expensive to make. It doesn't charge fast enough. The ranges are now getting pretty high. I mean, in a 100 kilowatt Tesla, you can do 500-600 Ks. My iPace can do 400 Ks on a full charge, which is a 90 kilowatt car.
That is wow. That's just
Yeah.
Didn't someone bring a Tesla into South Africa recently? Just one.
Yes, there was one Tesla brought into South Africa. It cost about double the price of the car because of the import taxes.
Wow.
Shucks.
Yeah.
Why did they bring it in, or was it just like they had the cash?
It was a marketing thing, and I still think it's a marketing thing, which is good because everybody and anybody who can drive this transition will save the 60% exports that we stand to lose if the industry doesn't change.
Sure.
Alrighty.
Are people lobbying though?
Behind the scenes, we all are. We're making suggestions to government. We're talking amongst ourselves, Auto Trader, NAMSA, the OEMs. We're all trying to get the right solution on the table. And as Auto Trader, we're trying to use our reach to try and change the mindset of the consumer around EVs and tell people it's very possible to drive to Cape Town, like you asked just now. Every 200 k's is a charge. I'm going to do it in the next, in the next little while. I'm going to do it as soon as this wave starts to get behind us, and then I'll show you that it can be done.
Okay.
Yeah, definitely blog that.
I'm gonna.
Awesome. George, is there anything else?
Nope, that's it.
Thank you very much then. Thank you very much, George, for being on the show this morning and for that update. Michael Flax, Leigh-Ann Moore.
Leigh-Ann.
Yeah, are you in the Cliff Central studio?
Yes. You know what? My day started way too early. I just clearly need just a break after this show. Thank you guys so much.
You need a good cry. That's what you need.
Yeah, go cry, so yeah. Just let it out.
It's so please spare me. Everyone, have a good week, and Gareth will be back on the show on Monday. Until then, have a great one. This has been the Gareth Cliff Show on cliffcentral.com.